Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. This is a really important forum, and we really just really are so thankful we have such wonderful people running. And before we even start, I want to thank two of our superstars on the board right now, Bob Butts and Marie Sweeney. They have been working constantly across this country trying to find people to run for the board. And if I were a betting person, I would almost bet that they're already recruiting for next year. So we really want to thank them, and we want to thank our candidates for really stepping up. And we want to thank everybody who is going to take an hour out of their evening tonight to be with us. My name is Daniel Bruda. I'm the election chair. And Lauren, our vice president, Lauren Carpenter, will be our moderator. And of course, Logan Bear, our wonderful webmaster, will help support us during this hour. We'll start with basic introductions. Lauren will walk people through a series of questions, the candidates, and then we'll open it up for you, all your participation during the last half hour. So without further ado, let me pass it on to Lauren.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Well, welcome everyone. We're gonna start with just basic introduction. So if each of you could say your name, your pronouns, where you live, if you're part of a Dignity community, and also what position you're running for. And anybody can go ahead and start. Maybe I'll call on folks. How about, let's start with Chris.
Hi, everybody. Chris Pett, he, him, his, Dignity Chicago, and I live in Chicago and currently the president of DignityUSA.
Yeah. And how about, can we get Melly next?
Hi, I'm Melly. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Part of Dignity Indianapolis and also live in Indy. I'm running for vice president.
All right, and let's hear from Ellen.
Hi, I'm Ellen Euclid. I live, my pronouns are she and her, and I live in Cleveland. I'm not part of a Dignity chapter, but I've gone to the national conferences and things like that. And I'm running for just regular board position.
Thanks. All right, and Jason.
I'm Reverend Jason Carson Wilson. I live in Washington, D.C., and a member of Dignity Washington. My pronouns are he, him, his.
Thank you. And Martine?
Hi, Hi, I'm Martine Witchker. Pronouns are he, him, his. Live in Washington, D.C., a member also of Dignity Washington, currently on Dignity USA's board and running for re-election for a board seat.
Thank you. And then we'll have Anne, and for those who are online, Anne, we had some technical difficulties, so her photo is not available, but we will hear her voice through Daniel.
Okay, I'm Ann Pennick, her, hers, and she, and I'm affiliated with Dignity Washington, and I live in Alexandria, and I'm running for the board.
All right, thank you, everyone. So we'll go ahead and get started with our first question, which is, what special gifts and experiences do you bring to the Dignity USA board? And whoever wants to start can jump in. I'll call on Chris.
Thanks, Lauren. And again, I want to echo my thanks, appreciation for this group of people who are willing to put themselves forward. Thanks for all those who are joining us today. You know, I joined Dignity in 1990, the Chicago chapter, and have continued through that chapter and into my involvement at the national level for all those different years. I served on the board for 3 years before taking over running for president this last term. You know, I've done a lot of work professionally, working with organizations, leading teams, and working collaboratively with boards and with leadership groups to help organizations be more effective and affect change, and have been, I think, a pretty good strategic thinker, and was part of the group that designed the Jubilee process that we're, have completed now and will be celebrating at the conference here in Chicago in July.
Thank you, Chris. Who'd like to go next?
I can go. This is Jason, and I think I forgot to mention that I was running for a board position. So I'll mention that. I will say, although I'm a Protestant in this community, I bring just a really special appreciation for the Catholic teachings from a Jesuit perspective, and really appreciation for the Catholic worker movement. And also really bring a passion for the commitment, and experience in fighting for justice. I'm an ordained United Church of Christ minister who worked for the Justice Witness Ministries office, and have also founded a nonprofit, the Red Rest and Liberation Initiative, focused on LGBTQ and people of color, a domestic and international policy advocacy organization focused with that focus. And so I bring that commitment, as well as just a passion and commitment for fostering diversity in every sense and in every community I'm in, as well as making theology, specifically queer theology, relevant to everyone, particularly within the context of the queer community.
Great, thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
I'd like to go next. Go ahead, Ellen.
Yeah, so I'm Ellen. I also have a connection to the Catholic worker movement, and I think one of the things I bring that's more unique is just my history with lots of different church justice organizations. And I worked at Call to Action for a few years. That's really how I got to know Dignity. I got to go to the World Youth Day with Lauren and a few other people. And so I think those connections, I know that there's always talk between the different sort of progressive Catholic organizations about the good ways to work together. And I would like to help continue those conversations and foster those conversations about how we can maintain our different focuses, but also bring people together on those issues. Personally, I also bring the perspective of someone who's in a regular parish, non-Dignity parish. I'm actually on parish council, which would be kind of funny to be on parish council simultaneously to Dignity board. Very different power structure. But yeah, so I know that that's a somewhat growing portion of Dignity members, especially among younger members. We're lucky to have found churches that we can be in, but at least for me, Dignity is still really important to why I can stay in the parish I'm in, because I need that other support of people who understand the full experience of who I am. So I hope that perspective would be helpful to the board and bring something new to conversations that people are having.
Great, thank you. Who can we have go next? Martine, would you like to go?
Sure, yes. Yeah, I've been part of Dignity USA and Dignity Washington for over 6 years, and quickly of going to the Minneapolis convention several conventions ago, was just inspired, and I fell in love with the people and the mission and the community built there, and ran for a young adult caucus leader nationally soon after. And so now I led the Young Adult Caucus for 2 years, and we started a retreat, community building retreat on the off years of our conference, have now done 3 of those, helped plan. And so I think it brings the perspective of the young adults of the last 6 years, and building that community and wanting to continue to foster that, both locally in a chapter in DC as well as nationally. Professionally, I work in digital communications and social media and advocacy, and I have brought that to the board in the last 2 years, and engaging our membership and trying to bring ourselves into this digital age of how to raise money online and how to get in the public engagement, and growing our base beyond growing our membership, growing our support base beyond just the those in our chapters and connected in our movement, and finding ways digitally to get folks involved and involved in our mission. And there are so many people that we know believe in our mission but don't yet know about us. And so I'm excited and I want to continue to bring my skills of effective online communication and advocacy and engagement, dignity, and continue our work and mission in the years to come.
Great, thank you, Martine. How about we hear from Melly next?
Hello, everyone. So I think some of the unique things about me, kind of like Ellen, I also have a Catholic worker background. I founded the Catholic Worker in Indianapolis about 7 years ago, and with the support of our community here, we've been able to really grow and build community, and actually are housing a number of LGBT people at the Worker, which has been really exciting. Been involved with Dignity, I say I was Dignity adjacent for a long time. I have a long history of work in parish ministry. I was a director of religious education and youth ministry for about 8 years. So when I first found the Dignity community, I was only peripherally involved because I was still working for the Archdiocese and had employment concerns. So I've become a lot more involved in the last 3.5 years since I left that position. And I think have really helped to grow the number of people that are involved in Dignity Indy, and also the sense of community and fellowship that we have there, which is one of the things I'm really proud of. And then I think the other unique thing is I was able to go to World Youth Day this past time. So I was in Panama in January, really getting to experience kind of the global church and really spreading our mission and our ministry of welcoming LGBT people to young Catholics from all across the world.
Great, thank you, Molly. Let's hear from Anne.
Anne, are you on?
I am. Hi. Yes, I've been thinking over, listening to what the other people have said, and thinking about, I've been a long time parish ministry, volunteer, music ministry, dance ministry, and then my first job with the church was at Charleston, College of Charleston and Medical University of South Carolina, where I was a campus minister with college students. And then I was 8 years in Boston. Inclusive parish, St. Anne University Parish for 2 years. And then I was 6 years. I was Catholic chaplain and director of the Catholic Center at Tufts University, where I worked very hard to make sure that we were inclusive, a welcoming community. Gosh, I'm thinking about all the different things that I've done and over the years. Something else that's interesting or a little different about me, I'm an ordained priest with the Roman Catholic Women Priests and have been since 2011. And I've been serving as one of the rotating priests with Dignity Washington and Northern Virginia Dignity for about 2 or 3 years now, although I've been discerning with Dignity since June of 2014. In my day job, I'm a mental health clinician at George Mason University, and thankfully in a counseling center that's very dedicated to being welcoming and inclusive of the student population and outreach to the LGBTQIA students in a very major way.
Great, thank you, Anne. Well, I'm just so impressed hearing, what all the gifts and experience that people bring of all the different types of versions of Catholicism and everything that folks are involved in, and all different faiths. So it's really exciting to hear the diversity of the backgrounds that everyone's bringing. So our next question is, what excites you about being part of Dignity USA, about being part of the board? What are you feeling excited about in the work that we're doing? Anyone can start. Go ahead, Ellen. Thanks.
Okay. So one of the things that I think is the most unique about Dignity and really, really drew me to Dignity to begin with, back when I first found out about it, was the way that the Dignity is so committed to intergenerational friendships and really deep connections between people. That is something that I don't really encounter in other spaces that I'm in. It can be really hard to meet people who are a different generation, and I've found that people were super welcoming and wanting to meet each other as peers, even who were very different ages. And I know that Dignity is doing some work on supporting the local communities as they need to support members who are aging. And I just think that is such an awesome version of community and something that's really needed in the world. So I'm excited to be a part of that type of work. And also, having gone to World Youth Day, I just really was impacted by how important it can be to just be, just be in a space and be honest in a space. And that is something I learned from Dignity that's been hugely impactful in my own life. So it's exciting to me to try to bring that to other people and inspire other people by that.
Thank you. Who's next?
I guess I'll go next. This is Jason. I guess this is in a denomination that has acknowledged my presence and my worth. It just really excites me to be in a space with those in Dignity, so I can be in solidarity with them and show them the worth and their value through my presence in the community. But also, it has taught me to really learn from them, learn how to be courageous in the face of not being valued to a certain extent. So I just, I guess maybe excited isn't necessarily, as I speak about that, I guess maybe excitement isn't necessarily the right word to use with what I'm saying, but I guess it, I guess I will say it enhances my my journey with my fellow Dignity siblings, and also the opportunity to be able to share my unique perspectives and experiences, even as being a Protestant. I mean, that's an excitement. And also to just be able to share in that community where I don't need to, again, like Ellen said, where I can just be me. I mean, I think that for me is one of the most exciting things, is that as much as the Mass fills me spiritually, the community rounds out that spiritual experience.
Great, thank you.
I can go. You know, I think I have a unique perspective as the president, and you know, had started locally in Chicago, and then through conferences and other interactions and work with the board, you know, was able to gain the broader national perspective. And what I have said to people is that when I started at Dignity, I was a bystander. I wasn't involved. And because of Dignity, I could become an active participant in being this collective voice. And that voice is what has become the go-to voice for LGBTQ Catholics, iCatholics, and others, you know, who are part of our extended family and networks, and who get to know us through families and friends and all of that. And people respect us, come to us. The media is coming to us now regularly. Marianne, of course, who brings this extraordinary voice and leadership. and propheticism is nationally and now internationally acknowledged. So we have a leadership role internationally in helping to amplify a global voice in response to the church's challenges and issues, and the intersection of other, injustices that are going on globally. I want to mention too, I think I was very excited last summer when I had the opportunity to be with the young adult retreat that Martine mentioned, and Jason was there, was a wonderful facilitator and leader of the retreat. And I said to people afterwards, first I was nervous because I was this totally non-millennial person, like double the age and maybe older than their parents. But I found this very welcoming and inviting community that it was created amongst itself. And, felt that I had really had a retreat with this group. But what I also said to people was there was not one person in that group who I would not trust with the future of Dignity, who could be an exceptional leader and voice. And that to me was very exciting about our future and about, the continuance of our mission and our voice, and really believing that we can make a difference.
Great, thank you, Chris.
I can go next. I think for me, when I finished college, I immediately started working for the church. I just have always felt a very deep vocation to minister, to minister in the church, and that's not something I'm able to do anymore. I left my position to propose and get married a couple years ago. And so serving on the Dignity Board for me feels like an extension of a ministry I was already called to. And it feels really special to me to be able to serve a community of LGBT Catholics. I think what really excites me is, as people have said, for me, Dignity is such a powerful space that really recognizes all the various parts of me, my gayness, my Catholicness. And I'm excited about the opportunity to keep creating space, for gay Catholics, for our allies, for our families and friends. I think if someone wants to be part of our church, there should be space for them. And I'm really passionate about making that space available to people.
Great, thank you. All right. Martine, would you like to go, or are you pointing at Anne?
Pointing at Anne, but
oh, okay.
I want to be last every time, but
yeah.
Wait, hold on. Martine's going next.
Oh,
okay.
Next time Anne can go.
All right, we'll call Anne first next time. Thank you, Martine, for your consideration.
Oh, we're going. Okay, hold on. Go ahead, Anne.
All right.
Okay. I just wanted to echo what Melly said, because serving on the Dignity Board for me would also be an extension of serving the church. I can certainly identify with, since I became a Roman Catholic woman priest, of course, I cannot serve the church in the ways that I could before, but the Dignity doors opened a few years after my ordination. I'm just so honored to be part of Dignity, and I find it very welcoming. I really like the intergenerational aspect of it, and the forward thinking, and just the openness and acceptance of the community.
Great, thank you. All right, now we'll hear from Martine.
So many things to share, but I think echoing a lot of you folks, but I think it's been an honor in the last 2 years to be on the board and travel. We have every in-person board meeting every few months. We travel to a community, and to see the diversity of our national community, of who we are as Dignity, and then getting to know, as we've gone through this Jubilee process and helping facilitate some of our local conversations about our history and our present and our future in DC, but also among the young adults. And but like really just the rich history we have for being around for 50 years, and right before Stonewall, and that struggle, and but also that joyous like struggle that we've gone through over the last 50 years, and to be with those people still now that have been through that history, and the shoulders that we stand on, and but that we still have so far to go as well, right, in the church, and echoing what Melly and Anne were saying too. And I've tabled at events and as Dignity, and people still don't know who we are, and are super excited that a Christian, or even a Christian like LGBT, but let alone a Catholic LGBT organization like Dignity exists. And as long as, and we have, our mission still is alive and needs to be brought forward, as long as LGBTQ folks get fired in Catholic spaces and in their jobs, and as long as trans youth get kicked out of their homes and are killed on the streets. And so we have a powerful mission and a deep that we must keep forward, and our future is bright too. As I think I was really inspired too in our young adult retreat, that Melly was there too as well, and so 4 of us on this call. That was really inspiring, because we were thinking about our future as as we celebrate our Jubilee and going forward. So those are some of the things that excite me about being part of Dignity.
Great. Thank you, Martine. And that's a good segue to our next question. But before I do that, just want to remind everyone that all the participants have the opportunity to submit questions. And so if you're on Zoom, you can submit them through the Q&A button. And if you're watching on Facebook, if you type that in to the Facebook feed, Logan will make sure that we see your question, because this is the final scripted question. So after this, we'll be opening it up to the floor. So our final question is, as we are looking forward to the next 50 years of Dignity, what are the needs that we need to address in order to keep our mission relevant? This is the tough one.
Well, I'll begin.
Thanks.
I guess for me, I believe that both my own Dignity community and DignityUSA really needs to increase diversity in every way, be that racial, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, racially. So just increasing diversity, as well as committing to new habits to sustain the diversity within the community. For example, using preferred pronouns and making that a habit. Also creating new theological resources. Given as a queer theologian, I understand how the changing, how queer theology has changed, and keeping up with those changes and being able to provide resources to our changing demographic. And then also just to become more committed to doing social justice in a way that is most comfortable and safest for each community, because of course each community has different circumstances, different issue situations that they face, and so there are different ways to approach social justice. But overall, just really feeling that being more committed and more active in a way, again, that is most comfortable and safest is something that I would support.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anne, would you like to go next?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I was thinking, as I was reflecting on this question, one, couple of things I thought of was that I'd like to see Dignity, like keeping current the changing pronouns and acronyms, of course, but also keeping up with all the changes. Seems like social media changes and grows every time we turn around. So keeping up with what's going on there, and also keeping current with the social justice needs of the LGBTQIA community, increasing the inclusiveness. What I mean by that, the inclusiveness and diversity of the whole, all the different expressions of LGBTQIA. So those were some of my thoughts on that.
Great, thank you. I'd like to go next.
I can go next. I think for me, the things that really stand out are, one, I'm really interested in looking at our membership model and how we can continue to engage a wider group of people, both expanding our communities to include allies and friends and family, but also looking at ways of entry for those people that aren't able to attend Dignity Mass regularly, or who live in a city that doesn't have a Dignity community. I think when we look at the number of LGBT plus Catholics or former Catholics, people who would be passionate about our work, there are thousands more people than we're currently engaged with. And so, I'd like to find ways that we can really increase our engagement and our involvement, and really grow our membership to include a wider array of people. And then secondly, just continuing to provide really strong chapter services, whether that's through responding to church worker justice issues or responding to pastoral needs as they arise. I know Ellen had mentioned our aging community, but also thinking about additional pastoral needs of even our younger members, and how we respond to the needs that people have when they do start coming to Dignity, kind of as their parish. What ways can we support them in their faith and in their growing life?
Great, thank you.
Melly, we are on the same page, so I echo all of that. Look forward to working with you guys, because yeah, as I think I teased in the answer to the first question, I guess I've started to articulate, building on my like professional realm of skills of digital engagement and growing our influence using digital tools and marketing and email and social media beyond who we already touch. And like Melly said, like I think we've thought about, wait, there are millions and millions of Catholics who are allies who could be with us, and are LGBT that are like obviously with us and or formerly Catholic, but then even more allies, right? And so how can we include and really expand what we think of what dignity? There's another way way forward there, along with continuing our chapter support, but then the broader beyond chapters. And I also, something that came up from some of our young adult gatherings too, realizing a lot of us are getting married and thinking about children, and how dignity could be looking very different in the next several years. It's our generation and the generation next, and how do we want to articulate and include our queer families and our children, and growing them up in a faith, a queer LGBT Catholic faith ethic. So looking to build some of that queer theology with you, Jason, and that Dignity can help facilitate community among queer Catholic families in the future is exciting to me. And then also just continuing, I think also echoing Anne, I think too, like was, well, needing to be looking at our intersectionality of other justice issues of racial justice and immigrant justice, and our plights are all wrapped up in the common need for equality. So how do we show up is a question, right, for these other movements, but needing to show up and show that who we are, and this is part of our mission as well. So some of our ways forward.
Great, thank you, Martine.
Yeah, I can go. Am I the last one maybe? Well, everybody stole my answers, so I'm glad I get to maybe work with you guys. Yeah, I am. I feel very called to anti-racism work. So I am very glad to see Dignity doing some of that, and the progressive church communities in general doing some of that. I think obviously always need to do more of that, as well as some of the work around gender identities and sexism. And I'm glad that Dignity seems very aware of that and very much working on it. And then just a diversity of the ways that people want to get involved, I think, is important too. Coming to a national conference is awesome and can be life-changing, but some people can't or don't even want to. And so I think supporting the chapters and having their smaller local events and different ways to get involved beyond mass, people who don't live in a city with a chapter, like Melly said, all of that I think is really important to the future of Dignity, and is not a brand new idea, but is something that I would like to explore with Dignity. And like Martine said, I think a lot of the young adult caucus is getting into our 30s and thinking about all the things that come with that. I just got married last year. And just the process of planning the wedding and finding someone to do premarital counseling, and whether we can now go on any couples retreats, I don't know where, at the UU church or something. So I think all of those needs are going to be coming to the forefront. And I hope that we can address those without forgetting the needs of the older members, because I do really love the intergenerational aspect of the community.
Well, I think I'm last, and I kind of held back to listen to everybody's input, and I am so excited about what all of you have articulated. I heard all of that in the Jubilee discussions and board meetings we've been having. As Martine said, my mind was expanded when I'm sitting there and people are saying, hey, we're going to get married and have kids. You know, and for my generation, that just wasn't an option. It wasn't within our framework. And that's good. I like it. And I think Martine knows I'm his biggest fan when it talks about the digital age and about engaging people. What I keep coming back to is we need to be future forward. We need to look and act and sound like a future forward organization that builds on this legacy and history of achievements and voice and the profits that have brought us to this point. But going forward, we need to, again, look and feel and act in new and different ways. So I think the whole, bigger picture of change, how are we positioned and how are people feeling about it, and how do we encourage people to embrace change so that it's okay to be different in the future. And I've heard, of course, a lot of that in what all of you have reflected. And another particular example is how we think about community, as Melly said, and membership, how people affiliate or belong or connect to us. That has to be in multiple platforms and multiple directions and multiple ways. And then I think also this idea that, our advocacy is fairly focused. We operate within the faith-based or faith tradition progressive movement, but we're also have the opportunity to be part of a national conversation. And next year is an election year, and we all know what a horrible situation we're in, and I'm just going to keep it there. I won't go beyond that. We're in a very difficult place as a society and as a community, and we have a voice and should have a voice, and maybe where we have opportunities to have that voice expressed in the national conversation, hopefully that we will have. I think that's an important need for us. And then I think lastly, sustainability. We're going to continue to need to find new funders and new ways through that engagement that Martine is talking about and helping us articulate how we're going to attract new people, how we're going to bring more people to us in an active way who are willing to contribute time, talent, and treasure to us to sustain our work. And that's a need that we're going to be looking at as a board, and we'll be engaging as many people and as many ideas and thoughts, thought-provoking ideas as we can.
Great, thank you, everyone. I have to say that it makes me feel sad that I'm stepping down from the board because you all have such great energy and ideas, and I just think all of you would be wonderful. So, yeah. So now we're going to move into the Q&A portion. We've got a lot of great questions from our audience members, so we'll do our best to get through as many as we can. The first one from Bob Mialovich, and this is specifically for Jason and Anne, and Jason's already offered some written commentary, but I'll give you the opportunity to speak a bit. So he asks, you both use the title Reverend in your resume, something I don't think any board candidate has done before. Given your positions in the other than regular Catholic organizations, how will you be able to support GLBT Catholics and represent them to the church and society? So Anne, would you want to start to comment on that?
I'm sorry, did you say me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Wow, I'm going to have to think about this one for a while.
On the spot.
Oh, wow. Well, when I was ordained a Roman Catholic women priest, it is a movement in the Roman Catholic Church. I will be honest, the hierarchy does not look favorably on our movement at all, and we are kind of persona non grata with them. But when I got ordained, I really wanted to serve the church that I love, and I felt in 2014 that door had opened, and that door was going to be, working with the Dignity people in Washington, D.C., and I was just really honored to be able to do that because of my long-time work with LGBTQI students in all the different colleges that I was serving. And then most recently I was at a community college where I helped get the Gay Straight Alliance off the ground with the help of these students that wanted to organize that. So I guess I feel as an ordained person to be able to serve the community in that way and wherever I'm needed. So I hope that answers your question.
Great, yeah, thank you. Jason, did you want to say something?
Yes. So, I mean, as a Black gay man, I understand what it's like to be disenfranchised and discriminated against, and have my value and worth questioned in various ways. The same as the Dignity members have faced. I mean, it's really why Dignity was created, was to give shelter and space to those who have been deemed intrinsically disordered. And have been told that they are abominations. And I think for me, understanding that on a personal level really makes me prepared to be able to, as Bob noted, to represent and to support my fellow dignitarians who have faced levels of disenfranchisement and discrimination. And also, while I am a Protestant, I have really been put in spaces where I've experienced how Catholicism can be used to treat people the way they should be treated, and to fight for injustice in various ways from a Catholic perspective. So I feel like I bring the lessons that I have been afforded to learn to the table. And also, my experience as a queer theologian really has just given me opportunities to explore insights that also would allow me to, insights that I can share that support gay Catholics.
Great, thank you. Thank you both for those responses. So next question, interesting one. So Jim asks, to what extent should Dignity be engaging with the American bishops and the institutional church?
Well, I can get started. This is an interesting subject. I would say that in particular, first of all, our stance, I think our public stance, I think our mission is to be in communion with the church in a way that's meaningful, but also challenges the church to everything that Jason was saying. Full acceptance, inclusion, welcome. And we will continue to be that challenging voice. In the background, I think locally our communities look for ways to engage their local bishops, and that meets some level of success. It varies across the country. But we also have we have the wonderful presence and experience of Mary Ann Duddy Burke, our executive director, who personally has participated in a lot of conferences. Bob Mialovich is another person, from past leadership and currently, continues to contribute significantly to our organization, who participated in the National Association of Priests conference recently. So we try to have that visible presence with groups and with the bishops whenever we can. Mary Ann has engaged Bishop McCrory, who I think is in Kentucky now, Covington, and Bishop McElroy, who is in San Diego. So she's made some inroads in, building relationships with these bishops who seem to be more interested in being able to step out apart from the monolithic group of the USCCB, and not be afraid to engage in dialogue, and who are willing partners. Archbishop Tobin, Cardinal Tobin, now in Newark, has also been expressed interest and has showed a willingness to speak his mind and, to be an advocate for inclusion and welcome and equality. So I think there's a lot of things that we continue to do. It's still part of who we are, what our stance is, and what our belief is that we should be and are looking for full communion with the church, institutional church, but we'll continue to challenge that institution as it needs to be. And we'll look for inroads, whether through bishops or groups that are affiliated with the church, the institutional church, to continue to build relationships and make our presence known.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Anyone else want to comment? Oh, Ellen?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a question that came up a lot at Call to Action, obviously, too. And I think back to when we were at World Youth Day, and I, blue-haired Mohawk at the time, got up and asked the bishop about how they treated LGBT people. I knew what his answer was going to be. I didn't even really want to hear his answer, honestly. But it really was just an opening to have a whole room of people who wouldn't have heard that question brought up hear the question and see someone willing to ask it. And so I think of that a lot when I see this type of work publicly. Like the bishop, he's got a whole team of media people, let alone his own personal opinion. He can only do so much. But I think it can be very powerful to engage with them for the benefit of the bystanders, I guess is the word. if only because people are expecting us to dismiss the church. I mean, how many times have we all been asked, why don't you just leave? And so to engage them is sort of the unexpected piece. And I think that's why it can be powerful.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment on that question? All right. Well, we're coming into the last 10 minutes of our conversation here. We've got a number of questions left. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the questions that we have remaining, and then everyone will have a chance to just talk for a minute or two, really just a minute. So you can answer any of those questions that you like, or just kind of have any closing feedback that you want to give. So let me take a minute and pull up our remaining questions. Marie asked Anne specifically if she could comment on her own family and how her personal experience could be a resource for the board. Logan asked to explain what dignity is and why dignity is in 1 minute. And Mark asked 2 questions, one about needing to adapt to a changing world and what is a key change or challenge you feel strongly about that must be grappled with in the next board term and how you'd make it happen. And then also a question about finances and fundraising and how we fund the work that we're doing. So you have 15 seconds to answer each question. Just kidding. But yeah, let those be a framework just for any final comments that you have.
I think Anne wants to.
Anne wants to go first? Great. Thanks, Anne.
Yeah, I'll make it very quick. My stepson came out to my husband and I in 1998, and that's when, even though I had always been, interested, and I had worked with LGBTQ young adults and college students. I would say what really brought that home was when he came out to us, and that was, I think, the beginning of my journey towards more involvement with the LGBTQ community, and then, of course, later on Dignity.
Great, thank you. All right, Jason, would you like to go?
Yes, I would like to answer what is and why is dignity, and I believe that dignity is a sanctuary for those who have been devalued, to have a space where they can be treated with dignity and enjoy community in dignity.
Nice.
Great, thank you. Well said. Who'd like to go next?
I can go next. And I think one of the challenges is kind of what we've been talking about all night, this need to revolutionize our membership model and how we engage with the world around us. And I think that that goes hand in hand with the ways that we continue to fundraise. I mean, certainly having the support of grants is critically important to our work. And also it's important that we are engaging the members that we have for their time, talent, and treasure as well. And so looking for additional ways to extend membership or additional drives for the individual people who are part of our community to help be a funding part of our work is, I think, going to be critically important as we move forward.
Great, thank you.
I can go. I think both to answer the question, what is dignity, and to steal the question that was meant for Anne about talking about my family. I really feel like dignity gives people power. I know empower can be a complicated word, but it is so powerful to feel like your whole self is seen and your whole self is good. And I think that that's where the power of just being able to witness and just, like I said earlier, just to be, the power of just being yourself is something that dignity gives people. And I really think that that has impacted my life in my own family. I've seen my mom be sort of inspired to be more public about her support of me. And when Colleen and I were planning our wedding, we really thought about how we wanted to include our faith, not only because it was important to us personally, but because it was like a good opportunity to show our family and friends that this was about the whole thing, and that was important to us. And so I feel that personally, that Dignity is about that power. And I think that that power of witness seems to be a core part of everything Dignity does.
Great, thank you.
I've answered as Nellie did Mark's to the challenge, as well as I think partly the economic challenge is one that we do face in the next this next couple of years. But I do believe that as we talk about, I think that fellow board member Peggy mentions, like the New York Times, the Advocate, these major publications, both in society and the church and in the LGBT world, like have Marianne Duddy Burke's number, right? Like we get in those newspapers and those magazines, and we're quoted, and we are a voice for LGBT Catholics. I'd love to turn that, and people then read that, but I'd love to turn that into how do people engage with it? How do people join us by giving $5, giving $10? We inspire them to we are inspire them with our mission, and yes, people want to be inspired reading, but then there's no ask to give, right? Or no ask to join us, to give us their email address, to join us on Facebook. So those specific strategies, I look forward to implementing and working with and growing our influence and bringing more people into our movement. And by that, we'll be able to raise money to keep us going as well.
Great, thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I'm so excited by this group of candidates and the leaders we have in our community, our current board. Lauren just did an amazing job as a vice president, still continues on through October. I mean, I couldn't really say anything any better than what people have said. Melly kind of stole a lot of my things as well, and Martine knows I'm his biggest fan on this idea. We have to be future forward, and we can't be afraid to change and be different and envision what membership means, what community means, what voice means. I think a challenge for us is going to be the scope of our mission. We know what our mission is, but we're going to have to scope this out and understand where do we have the most talents and greatest capabilities to have the greatest impact, and find a sustainable path to financially support that. But most of all, the presence and the involvement of people like in this group and those who are on our board currently, and our members and our donors and all these folks. We have a lot to be excited about, and I think this has been a great opportunity for us as a group, and hopefully more people will see this or it'll get streamed. That people will be excited about our future as we are.
Great, thank you, Chris. Yeah, so that we'll wrap with that. We will wrap up our night. Also, just want to say a huge thank you to Logan Bear, who did all the tech support behind this and made this all happen. So thank you very much, Logan. Yeah, and Daniel, any closing comments about voting?
Oh, absolutely. Again, thank you all. It's been wonderful. So voting will continue until midnight on the 24th of June. You're probably wondering why the 24th of June. According to our bylaws, we need to certify the election by July 1st. So it takes about a week. I don't know if you know, but Peggy, DignityUSA office mails me the paper ballots, and then we tabulate the electronic ballots. And on that note, I just want to thank the DignityUSA staff, besides Logan, Marianne, Susan, and Peggy. It's really been a team effort. It takes a lot to get the ballots out, to get the electronic surveys going, to monitor everything. So we really, just a really wonderful group of people. And it's a really busy time right now. And I know Mark Matson's on, and a few other people from the national conference are on. There's a lot going on, and the fact that everybody's working together is really inspiring. So I also want to tell you that I can certify that no foreign government will interfere in our election. And again, thank you all, and we'll hope to see you guys all in Chicago in a few months.
Yes.
Yes. Wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Danielle.
Have a great
All
night.
right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.